Mandy Rose was just surprisingly released from WWE, so we'll get into that entire story. We'll also check out what's being rumored for Dominik, Rey Mysterio, and more. Let's start things off with the biggest news, which of course is the release of Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose became a household name and a megastar for WWE over the last few years. She started off as a participant for WWE's Tough Enough competition show, and even though she didn't win that competition, she was still offered a contract from WWE. She had her first run in NXT, then she made her debut on the main roster as a part of Absolution, followed up with her tag team with Sonya Deville, and then she was moved back to NXT. Everyone was in agreement that the best run of Mandy Rose's WWE career was in her second run in NXT. She went through a massive character change, led one of the most dominant women's factions in NXT history, and went on to hold the NXT Women's Championship for well over 400 days. Now, prior to these recent events, everyone assumed that Mandy would eventually drop the title to a young star and return to the main roster with Toxic Attraction by her side. And everyone assumed that Mandy Rose would be presented as a big star and a credible threat on the main roster, since she's coming off this 400-day long title reign. So, what went wrong and what went down? Well, on the December 13th edition of NXT, Mandy Rose ended up losing her title that she held for 413 days to Roxanne. Now, in that very moment, fans did correctly point out that something felt off about the entire situation. Right behind Roman and the Usos, Mandy had one of the longest active title reigns in WWE. So everyone rightfully expected the moment of Mandy Rose being dethroned to be this massive passing of the torch moment. And it definitely was. Roxanne is a young and deserving star to take that torch as champion, but fans just had a suspicion that this wasn't originally planned for the ending of Mandy's reign, and something must have forced their hand. Well, less than 24 hours after dropping the title, Mandy Rose was released by WWE, a massive curveball that no one saw coming. But at the same time, the release confirms the fans' suspicion that this was a last-second change to Mandy's title reign. So what caused Mandy to be basically stripped of the title and immediately released from the company? Well, the story is definitely out there. Mandy Rose has been selling content behind a paywall on a subscription website for the last few months. Mandy didn't really advertise the subscription page and plaster it all over social media. It was kept very low-key, but it was still out there. Mandy's paid content page was said to even have over 10,000 subscribers at one point. So there was a price for the subscription and then separate prices for the pieces of content. So it was generating a lot of income, and the buzz around it continued to grow. What made everyone take notice of what Mandy was doing even more was when one Twitter user posted a tweet with a screenshot of one of Mandy's premium pieces of paid content from paywall. This really brought even more eyes and attention to what Mandy Rose was doing with the paid content page, and it absolutely blew up and went viral among the wrestling community on Twitter. Then a few days later, Mandy Rose gets released because of that situation with the paid content. Reports claim it's more specifically a breach of contract with Mattel. Mattel has been handling all of WWE's action figures for several years now, and reports claim that what Mandy did is a breach of contract between the agreement that was reached between Mattel, WWE, and the talent themselves. Putting out that type of content is a breach of contract for that Mattel and WWE agreement. So a lot of fans are confused and trying to figure out what happened. Mandy Rose has been doing the paid content for a long time and perfectly getting away with it. This didn't just start recently, but it looks like the extra added spotlight that the Twitter user and the rest of the community put on Mandy's paid content is what finally caught Mattel's attention and forced WWE's hand. A lot of fans are also confused with the content itself. Some people are referring to it as leaked content. There's been plenty of superstars that have dealt with leaks and they didn't lose their job. Why is that? Well, in those specific cases, those were legitimate leaks and stolen personal pictures and videos. But this case is a little different. It's not fully leaked images and videos that were stolen from Mandy Rose without her knowledge. She's fully aware and was actively publishing the content herself and putting it up for sale to anyone that bought it. So you can see how those two situations are different. One side is legitimate stolen leaks, while the other side is paywall subscription content that the content creator is fully aware of and was purposely putting it out there as a product to purchase. There's conflicting reports on if WWE had warned Mandy Rose or not. Some reports claim that Mandy was warned and knew she could face some trouble if that paywall content continued to make some buzz. Fans feel like it was still a strong reaction to instantly cut ties with Mandy Rose and fully fire her. Fans were discussing how a temporary suspension and a warning might have been enough, but that's not what they decided to do. Fans are also comparing the situation to how other superstars can fail multiple drug tests, get multiple DUIs, run into all these other issues, yet their jobs are still perfectly intact. So it's a really tough situation. All the details aren't fully out yet, but it's still very unfortunate. Mandy's historic NXT title reign ends in a very anticlimactic way due to this controversy, and WWE loses a major star in the process as well. And instead of everyone talking about the historic title reign, everyone's talking about Mandy Rose's release. However, it's also being reported that the door is always open for Mandy Rose's return. So that makes everything even more confusing, but we'll have to see how this situation continues to unfold and what ends up happening. WrestleMania 39 had a lot of huge rumored matches for the show, and another one that's being rumored is Rey Mysterio versus Dominik Mysterio. A lot of fans like to joke about long-term storylines, and well, this situation between Dominik and Rey is one of those extremely long-term stories. Rey Mysterio was bringing Dominik to WWE shows and putting him on television ever since Dom was in elementary school. And like we were starting to see in 2019, WWE began teasing the idea of Dominik permanently tagging along and joining his father on WWE television. And in 2020, that's exactly what we saw. Dominik made his WWE debut to defend his father from Seth Rollins. Although Seth did tempt Dominik and told him that he had to get out of his father's shadow, Dominik still stayed by his father's side. They went on to become the first ever father and son duo to win the tag team titles. But as Rey Mysterio continued to push Dominik to the side for edge, this eventually led to Dominik snapping on his father and joining the Judgment Day. And that brings us to current day, where Dominik slanders his father with every opportunity that he gets. Rey and Dominik are being kept apart by the two of them being on separate brands, but there's a rumor out there that these two could finally come together for a match at WrestleMania 39. A lot of fans expect this to be a high-stakes match with either Rey's mask or career being on the line against his son. So that's another rumored match to be really on the lookout for. But what are your thoughts on today's stories with the release of Mandy Rose and Dominik versus Rey Mysterio? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.